Hey guys, Fusebox here, and I want to go over my top 25 rares. My picks as you go through this game, it doesn't really matter what level you're at. You're gonna need rares for those Doom Tower special, the secret rooms. You're gonna need them as you're progressing. They're gonna be easier for you to build. So these are the rares that I would definitely say when you get copies, feed them into each other, save them. Don't eat them. These are heroes worth having through the end game. Some of them more than others, but we'll kind of go over them. So let's go to the Banner Lords and see which picks I have. Typically there are 2 to 4 in each category. So, Banner Lords. Alright. There are plenty of honorable mentions in this. Valerie's pretty cool and all, but let's go over pretty much the one standout in this entire category. Again, you can get some shielding out of Valerie, pretty neat, but really, Dagger. Dagger is it. She stands out above all the other rares in this Banner Lords faction. Absolutely an amazing hero. So what does Dagger bring? She kind of brings it all, right? She can break defense on the entire team. She has a double hitter on her A1, Void Affinity. You can take her into any Fire Knight stage you want, get a little bit out of that. And also can break the attack on a hero in the big version if they're under decreased defense, which they should be. And in Faction Wars, she brings attack for your entire faction in the faction crypts. Absolutely, to me, the standout in the entire category of Banner Lords. So let's move on. High Elves. Now the High Elves, they have a couple of real standouts. Now real quick, I'll just say all of the starter champions. I'm not going to go over Elhain and Kale. The starter champions are great, but you can move out of them pretty quickly as you do get epics or better rares. So we're not going to go over the starter champs, but definitely some standouts here. Apothecary. When it comes to support, he definitely is in the running for the number 1 spot in all the rares for support. Of course, he's got a triple hitter on his A1. This is good in Fire Knight with Giant Slayer. Giant Slayer, you can use him in Clan Boss because, of course, he speeds up your entire team. And also increases their turn meter, not just the speed buff. And he has a heal that can heal really hard. It can actually crit. And then in Dungeons, he can be your aura for a 21% defense boost on your entire team. Absolutely one of the best rares, period, and definitely one of the best support rares there is in the game. Apothecary has to make the list, right? If you get him early game, he's going to really change your game. It's literally going to be like a point where everything becomes easier. So give him some love, make him fast, make him tanky. You won't regret it. Apothecary is amazing. In this same category, of course, there's always some call-outs. Ares is kind of a cool champ early on. Anytime somebody takes a hit, she gets a counterattack. Definitely a really neat champ to play with. She's farmable. But there's a lot going on here. But Reliquary Tender, another Void. But I'm telling you, she's definitely on scale with a lot of the epic and even some of the legendary support champs. She's absolutely great. She has the weak version of decreased attack, but it's on her A1, so that's great. She can keep the attack mitigated, damage coming in to you. But then she can completely cleanse your team of all buffs and put a continuous heal on everybody for 2 turns. This is absolutely amazing. A full cleanse with continuous heal, and she comes with a revive. Absolutely amazing. This champ right here, make her really fast, make her tanky, and she again will change her account. She'll change your account and you can use her right through to the end game just like Apothecary. Absolutely viable all the way through the game. So definitely an amazing champ. To the Sacred Order. Alright, there's a lot going on in here. There's plenty of champs to look at and choose from. So of course we could nitpick and find a lot of people that are decent, at least in some area. But actually, the list is kind of short here, all right? I know there are some good champs with some utility, especially early game, but we want champs that can do their job through end game. So real quick, Purgator. Honestly, right through to the end game, does enough damage to be viable as a damage dealer. He's great. He does huge damage all the way through the very end of the game. I believe the hardest damage dealing rare in the game. There's some new ones coming out. But this guy can do some serious work. That's pretty much what you're looking for out of him. I do like that he decreases the target's max HP by 20%. You can use this on the Scarab boss. He could be your damage dealer. If you squeeze him into that destroy set, you'll get a lot more out of him. So just as a raw damage dealer, Purgator actually stands out, worth building, worth keeping copies of until he's ready to go. And there's a lot of utility. There's a lot of champs here, but Draconis is a pretty solid champ for real. If you haven't ever really built him out or tried him out, he's a HB champ, so he does damage based on health power. Helps keep him alive. Every time he hits with his A1, he heals the lowest HP champion on your team by 7.5%. That's nothing to scoff at all. And that's by the damage he does. So you want to go ahead and give him some crit rate, some crit damage, but remember, he works like a support champ, so just give him a lot of HP, get his crit up there, keep him alive. But yeah, if you can get it up, he does decent damage for a rare, and especially for an HP champion rare. So he does a lot of healing just with his A1. Then he places this A2 places a shield on the entire team equal to 15% of his max HP. So get him really high on HP. This is a decent shield, especially from a rare. And then he attacks an enemy, removes all debuffs from the ally with the lowest HP. So again, a cleanse on a single target. But he heals them by 25% of the damage inflicted. So everything he does for damage, he heals the lowest HP on your team, whoever needs it the most. He can cleanse them with this move. It's on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. Puts up a shield pretty consistently, 3 turns. So definitely worth doing. And let's get into the barbarians. All right, so barbarians. There's pretty deep list here. We've got the top. Marked is actually one of the best rares in this game, I think. She can put the weak version of decreased defense with her A1. So there's nothing wrong with that. I know it's not the big version, but still, it's on her A1. She brings that. So attacks all enemies, decreased accuracy for 2 turns. We've all come to love this move. It's more important these days. So taking the accuracy down is kind of like boosting your resistance. So this is an amazing move to have on a support champ in the rare category. But here we go. Places block debuffs on all allies, 60% increased defense. This right here, that's solid. Any rare that can block debuffs and increase your defense in one move is, and this, look at the cooldowns, a 3-turn cooldown when you get these books. She's absolutely solid as can be. Again, factual wars on her aura. The auras, we're not really here to talk about auras. So again, there are plenty of call outs here, but Soulbound Boyer. Soulbound Boyer is absolutely amazing. Her turn meter control, she, if you don't have Cold Heart, she can do it. She hits really hard too, which is great. You can build her to kind of bring that damage. So she attacks all enemies, AoE in case you do fit her into a stun set on an A1. That's always a good idea. Anybody with the A1 AoE can absolutely lock up everybody. But an additional chance of inflicting critical hit on all of her moves. So you can build her a 75% crit and guarantee crit rate. This one ignores almost all defense, 75%. Absolutely hits like a truck. That's an amazing right there without even having to put her in a savage set. And then she attacks one enemy and also extra chance for crit, but guaranteed to fully deplete the target's turn meter. You can't beat that. There's your Cold Heart if you don't have her. Build up a Soulbound Boyer and you can get so much out of her. And again, you could take this, put her in a stun set, a sleep set, anything that can hit AoE and try to stun is far better than sleep. But she can become a control character just by doing that too. And there's a little bit of utility floating around in here, but War Maiden honestly has to make the list. She's farmable. She should be one of the first characters you get maxed out in this game, in my opinion. You're bringing your farmer up to 60. It's probably going to be Kel. Might as well bring her along for the ride, because in the arena, in all your waves, she's going to be able to break defense on the entire team. Absolutely worth doing. She actually has a chance of landing a poison, not just the weak version, really not going to be her thing. And she does buff her own attack rate. It places an extra hit if it's critical on this A2. She can really do some damage as well as break defense on the entire enemy team. Always worth building a war maiden out, farming up her books. You don't have to put any effort into it. So we'll keep moving on. The Ogren tribe. All right, so the Ogrens, man, there's not a lot going on here, but there are some that are absolutely amazing. Ogren Jailer, kind of like Purgator. He's simply really good at damage. He can put out a lot of damage, get him in some strong gear. He does have a chance to remove a buff from a target. He's got a little bit going on. He can steal 2 random buffs from the target. This can all be really useful in Doom Tower or Faction Wars or even the arena early game. He can do a lot, but he brings big damage. So absolutely worth building out if you're looking for a damage dealer or your Ogren tribe just need more damage. Moving on, we're going to talk about Gear Grinder. The Ogren tribe really do need this guy. He can do okay damage, but he can place a continuous heal. This is his A1. It places a continuous heal on him as long as it's a crit. And like I say, his damage for a support or an HP champion is pretty decent. Not that you want to build him out to be your damage dealer, but he heals all allies by 15% of their max HP. You can get this down to a 3-turn cooldown. And then he can revive a dead ally with half their HP, half their turn meter on a 5-turn cooldown. The Ogren tribe need this guy. So if you're struggling trying to get through, he's absolutely amazing in the faction wars. He's not one of the best revivers like in game, but if you still don't have a support champion and you're starting out this game and you come across a gear grinder, he's void affinity. He'll never have to worry about hitting crits and everything, even though he's not a damage dealer. But you're going to get a healer with a revive, and that changes everything when you start getting 1 or 2 support champions. They can push you through content that's a little bit tough for you. And then, one of the best in the game, Bellower. You can make a speed farmer out of him. That's great. Everybody wants to get a fast speed farmer. To do that, you're going to need pretty good gear because he's actually not strong. He's not strong at all. Somehow, because he's a speed farmer, people have come around thinking that he's like this really amazing damage dealer. But he is amazing. So on his A1, he can block active skills. I don't know if people realize how amazing this A1 is. It's an AoE that it's a small chance, but it can block the active skills. They can't use their counterattacks. They can't put up their block debuffs. He can just lock that out with an A1. Another AoE on his A2, and it's a smaller version, but he can decrease the speed of the entire team. And on this one, another AoE, he can break their attack, he can break their defense on the entire team. This guy can put out debuffs all day long, and because he's all AoEs, the best way to build this guy is as fast as you can get him with a ton of HP, some decent defense. Make him a tank, an absolute fast tank that throws AoEs out all day long with all these wonderful debuffs. And he keeps them locked up with a stun set. He can literally carry you through the waves when you're trying to push through the stages 15 through 20, 20 to 25. Maybe you're stuck in Doom Tower. This guy in a stun set built tanky and fast can absolutely get you through waves safely and comfortably. I always actually go all the way down the defense tree to increase his chance to stun. All right, Lizardman. The Lizardmen don't have much going on. There's not much going on here, but we definitely there are a couple small niche things, but we got to go over Metal Shaper. I think Cold Brew came out with this when Doom Tower first came out. If you need a shielder for the Scarab boss, Metal Shaper will answer all of your problems. Whatever he does, it doesn't really matter. He can steal a random buff. That's neat and all. He places a shield on a 2-turn cooldown on your entire team. That's all you need to know about Metal Shaper. That means he can make sure there's always a shield up. If he's the fastest on your team, he will always have a shield up against the Scarab boss, so no one ever has to force the Scarab boss into a counterattack. He is your absolute answer if you don't have, Miscreated Monster or whoever it is that you want to use as your shielder. He can do it, and he can do it on a 2-turn cooldown for 2 turns, which means you're always under a shield. If you can fit it, he's got to be the fastest on your team. You can put him in a shield set to make it even easier getting into that boss fight, but he is absolutely very useful, even though it's very niche. very useful on the Scarab boss. There's not that many on the Skinwalkers, but there are some really good ones. If we're going to really call out a couple that are amazing, though, we've got to go over Fleshmonger. Again, we've got a full AoE. Let's see, increases. It's right here. Attacks all enemies, breaks defense. Any rare that can break the defense on the entire team, just like War Maiden or Dagger, absolutely one of the best rares you can have. You may need this in Skinwalkers. There's not many that do it. So definitely somebody that you may actually need to build out. And there are actually a couple worth mentioning, but some honorable mentions. Greybeard, very good, farmable. Grappler, for early game, amazing. Now, as soon as you get out of early game, that's why he's not making my list. But I could do a whole guide on him. For early game, he's absolutely amazing. But right through to the end, Gnarlhorn, this guy should not be a rare. He should not be a rare. He's absolutely amazing. He's like gross good. You need to build this guy. You get a Gnarlhorn, you need to build him. I think you have to use one to actually get your rosin, and that is absolutely worth doing. But afterwards, collect your when you get a copy of him, put him into him, build him out. So A1 damage increases according to his HP. There's nothing really to that one. He places a provoke on the entire team. Then he places increased defense on himself. Then he comes around, places unkillable on himself for 2 turns. Basically, get this guy in a frost set, and maybe even one of those new frost gears that came out from the Frost Spider. He will provoke the entire team, go and make himself unkillable. Just make him tanky and fast, and he can freeze every character that comes at him while he's under that provoke and unkillable, giving him plenty of time to get healed back up by whoever you bring, your Apothecary, your Seal of the Drakes. And this guy will get you through waves more comfortably, or as comfortably as an amazing build on Bellower. He's absolutely in-game viable. One of the best rares in the game. I absolutely believe it. So he's right up there with Apothecary, Reliquary Tender, and Bellower. And there's one more we're about to get to that won't surprise anybody. But let's get through the orcs. Again, man, these orcs, they're not that exciting, to be honest. But I will say, Pig Sticker is actually worth bringing up, and only really for one reason. She does decent damage. For a rare, she does pretty decent damage. This has a chance to put a heal reduction up. Not probably the reason you're going to build her, but this actually does 20% max HP damage against that Scarab boss and hits pretty hard. And then her A3 can decrease it by 30%. If you get her in a very strong destroy set, she could single-handedly go in and just wreck that purple shield off of that Scarab King, giving you the odds of beating her. So you got if you've got Pig Sticker and you've got Metal Shaper, you really can. You got half of, pretty much all the ingredients you need to beat the Scarab boss right there. That's pretty much it. You just might want to slow the boss, bring decreased defense, maybe a weaken. But she is very niche. Again, she just puts out damage and breaks max HP, which does not matter anywhere but that Scarab boss. But she's so good there, it's worth mentioning. So there's that. And really, there are small things about all these that maybe we could go over, but they're not that wonderful. But Veteran is a void. He's actually a pretty decent rare. A1 with decreased attack, that's good. If you're early game, anybody that can do a decreased defense or attack on their A1 is great for the clan boss. Increased crit rate on all allies is really good, especially let's say you do have a seer but you don't have somebody to put up that increased crit rate, so she'll go on her first turn. He can answer that right here. And then he can attack all enemies with a chance of putting block buffs, which is always good. They can't buff themselves up. Great in the arena, faction wars, Doom Tower, all these people that want to put up counterattack or shields. He can block that with this move, so it's definitely pretty good. Damage increases by his max HP. He's a pretty interesting rare with a pretty unique little kit there. Block buffs doesn't come around very often, so worth calling out. So we're getting down to it. There's not a whole lot going on here, but we do have, I want to go over Philhound. There's only one reason he's great. Well, maybe two. He's an excellent farmer, kind of like Bellower can be, but the same thing applies. It's only if you put on very strong gear. You've got to have good gear, so you can be building this guy up, but you're gonna have to get the gear to make him a strong farmer. He's got to be able to kill everybody with his AOE on his A1, but his A1 does have a chance of actually putting decreased speed up on his own. So if you build him as a farmer, he'll actually do decent damage just because you piled that gear on him. Not that he's strong, but he will do decent damage here, and he can decrease speed. It's the small version. It's not a guaranteed chance, but that's decent. Here he puts a continuous heal and a reflect damage on all allies. Now this is actually pretty solid. It's the smaller continuous heal and reflect damage, but this can be pretty solid against like Fire Knight. When he hits you, that reflect damage counts as 5 hits from your whole team. So he can help get you through there. And in a pinch, he can block damage on any one ally he wants for 1 turn. So he can basically save somebody for a turn until you get it back around, let that heal do its magic, right? So he's worth bringing up. And Diabolist is actually an amazing champion that you can farm on 12-3 while you're doing your regular grind. So what is it that makes her super amazing? You know, asleep on her A1. But here we got an increased speed on all allies. That's great. And then we have fill turn meter of all allies by 15% and decrease the turn meter of the enemies by 15%. You know this is one of the best moves in the game. If you don't have one of the better characters that do this in the epic category or legendary, this is your answer. This changes games. This keeps other waves from going as often. She speeds up your team with her A2. She boosts your team speed by taking their turn meter up while breaking the turn meter of defense, the enemy's team. Absolutely worth taking. So Undead. There's a lot of Undead, and there's a lot of good use. Just some call out honorable mentions. Banshee, all AoEs like Bellower. Build her just like Bellower, and she does the same thing he does. I don't know why she doesn't get any love. Let's just look real quick. AoE with a chance of decreased defense. AoE with a chance of removing a random buff. AoE with a chance of block active skills. She's a lot like Bellower. Absolutely brings all this extra utility on top of the fact that she has all AoEs. Put her in a stun set, make her tanky, make her fast, and you've got an amazing character here. I really don't know why she doesn't get love. She's just like Bellower. Resistant arena, I doubt you're going to use her there. So, and again, there's little things going on here and there, but we've got to go. Seducer, absolutely amazing. He can put a sleep out. He has a decreased attack on the entire team. Excellent. Much like decreased defense, these are very important. Keep the damage coming in down. But this right here, increased defense on all allies by 2 turns and block debuffs. So a lot like Marked, who I think she puts the big version of increased defense up, but block debuffs is something that when you get a rare that can do it, and he's void, no weakness on affinity, he's absolutely great to build out just for that block debuffs on a 4-turn cooldown with a small version of increased defense. Again, I think Marked might win out in that fight, but they're both very good. If you get one, start building them out, and the fact that he's void might be a reason to take him instead. But out of this, one of the best rares again in the game, Frozen Banshee. I just did a whole guide on her just the other day, right through to the end game. One of the best poisoners you can have, hands down. She poison sensitivity, a 25% extra damage on poisons. She lays poisons constantly, and if you want to make use of it, typically you will not, you can boost your turn meter against enemies with lots of debuffs. But she just straight up pours poisons out with her A1 on top of her poison sensitivity, making all poisons by her and anyone else do more damage. Best in slot. We're almost there. It's a lot to go over. And this is only 25 that I really am calling out here. So again, we're not going to go over the starter champs. Spirit Host actually has a pretty decent place if you need her. She can put up block debuffs on all allies for 1 turn. So again, protecting yourself from being stunned or provoked, that's always good. She does have a speed aura in all battles. It's pretty weak, but it is good early game. She's farmable, which is one reason you might want her. increased attack on your entire team. One of the first and best places to get it is from Spirit Host. And then heals by 50% of damage inflicted. That's actually pretty good keeping her alive. So she's a solid hero to get to build up. She's farmable. You don't have to put any real resources into her, just some time. Definitely worth doing. In the category of cheese, there's only one. The king of the cheese, Paragon himself. He could put up unkillable constantly on himself, making him the other time. This is how you beat 12-3. I mean, beat the Nightmare campaign, basically. You take him and your favorite damage dealer. He takes the punishment, can't be killed the entire time. It's basically the unkillable for campaign. Painkeeper. One of the easiest or first characters that can get you into an unkillable team. She sent me. First of all, let's not overlook the fact that she has an amazing heal. She attacks all enemies, then heals by 15% of her max HP. You could build her high HP, heal your entire team while doing damage. That's wonderful. She could fill her turn meter on her A1. She decreases the cooldowns of all ally skills by 1. This is why she's so useful on unkillable teams. She makes Maneater come back around, use his unkillable move. She's the poor man's Kymar. Basically, even though it's only by 1 turn on your entire team, this is how you try to reset abilities, like to use Seer again or to come back around for an unkillable move. It just resets all your cooldowns on the entire team by 1. Comes with a big heal. Absolutely an amazing champ. And you may need it one day. But the top of the charts is still Coldheart. She's still amazing. She's got some heal reduction on her A1. She's a 4-hitter. This is what's amazing. You can take her in 4 hits every time she uses A1 against the Fire Knight. They have her AI working perfectly on Fire Knight. She'll break the shield down in record time, bring in a Heartseeker, do huge damage. Even if it's capped at 10%, if you are going past stage 20, it's still an amazing hit that completely depletes turn meter or takes 50% if you're going above stage 20. And if you want to use it, she still can decrease accuracy and put out poisons if they're under a heal reduction. So she really does top the chart. She's one of the best in the game again. And Knight Rivenance, really, there's only a couple worth calling out to me. I would Coffin Smasher, excellent decrease attack champ for the clan boss or any boss that you come up against. Doom Tower, he does it on his A1 with a 3-hitter. You can put him under the instead of War Master, go Giant Slayer. He can place HP burn. That's very useful in Doom Tower. It's a great ability to use almost anywhere, especially any boss. And on top of all that, his passive blocks 5% of all AoE attacks for your entire team. This is kind of ridiculous, really. It's overlooked. Coffin Smasher is an amazing champion. He's based on HP. You can put him in a shield set, protect your team even more. Definitely an amazing champ. And Renegade. We were just talking about Painkeeper. Well, Renegade can decrease the cooldown of all ally skills by 2. She's kind of got Painkeeper beat in this category if you're trying to get through like waves and you're trying to get your Seer to reset her cooldown, or just your big nuker, whoever you have. Maybe you just want your heals coming back around because you're getting tired of getting smacked around. You can try to pace her into your team however you need her speed, the slowest, the fastest. You can use your AI to tell her to use one of her other moves first. She does bring a decreased accuracy and speed on her A2. These are at random, but it's definitely 2 good debuffs. She even can put out heal reduction. So if you've got a place to use her, if she has to fit into, she's Void Affinity, bring her anywhere you want. If you need her on your Fire Knight team, she could actually put some of these debuffs up on the boss. Might help you out a little bit there too, but in the end, a better version of the poor man's Kymar. She can reduce all the cooldowns by 2. All right, so that was Knight Revenant. So only 2 more to go. The dwarves actually got. There are actually a few that are kind of overlooked by people. The lore is not too bad. I like a Dilgo, but in the end, let's call out a couple. Avir the Elves Mage. Again, if you're early game, this guy can throw out a poison, the big version. That, it depends if you're up against a boss, that might help you out. But he does have attacks all enemies, puts out a decreased attack. It's the small version, but decreased attack on the entire team. And then he can put decreased speed on for 1 turn on the targets who are under poison. So if you do have somebody putting out poisons, he can slow those heroes while breaking attacks, so that's solid. But then here you have fill the turn meter of all allies by 15% and heal them all by his max HP. Give him high HP, make him fast, and this is going to keep your team spinning, going faster with a heal every time he does it. In the end, right through the end of the game, bulwark. This guy's great. He's great. On Clan Boss, he brings the small version of Weaken, but it's on his A1. He can place HP burn on bosses or the Clan Boss. That's great. He does have a pretty decent defense aura for all battles on a rare, but right here, when he's attacked, there's a 30% chance of extending all debuffs by 1 turn. You'll see this guy front and center on a lot of Clan Boss fights, especially when the affinity changes. Taking those 2 hits, each hit has a 30% chance to just increase all your poisons, your decreased defense, your weakens, your HP burn. He'll increase those by 1 he can increase them every time he's hit. Absolutely worth building. The guy actually hits pretty hard. If you get him strong, tanky, with his crit rate up there, he's a solid champion, good on any boss, worth having on your roster. And then there's the new Shadowkin. Out of the Shadowkin, there's some interesting stuff. We'll just kind of talk about Assassin, though. This guy is pretty solid. So he's got a chance to put a poison out with his A1. Kind of like Avir. Big deal, but it could be useful. If you want him on Clan Boss, he also has the chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs by 1 turn every time he uses his A2. That's pretty solid. Just an A2 on a 3-turn cooldown has a 75% chance to increase all the debuffs by 1. You can pair this guy up with Bulwark, and now you've got, well, here he has a weaken as well. It's the small version, just like Bulwark, but he can keep them weakened. This is in all battles. 10% speed, depends on what you need, what point of the game you're at. And oh yeah, Vagabond. Yeah, I don't know what happened to this guy. Pretty cool looking champ though. Interesting to say the least. A1 can put somebody to sleep. No big deal there. But his A2 on a single target can block buffs. That could be useful if you know what's coming, especially. It also fills his turn meter by 15%, and then fills the turn meter of the ally with the highest turn meter by 15%. In other words, whoever's about to go, he tries to make sure that they do go, and he's bringing himself back around to use his next move. And this guy can actually fill the turn meter of all allies by 15% and break attack on the entire enemy team. But that's it. The rares that, in my opinion, you should be keeping, even if you're not building them directly right now. They're viable. They're viable through definitely into the end game, and most of those can be used easily in the end game. By then, you've got gear to make them function as if they were actually an epic or legendary. Some of them are literally on par with legendaries by the end of the game. So, hope you enjoyed it. Sorry if it went long, but hopefully I'll have a little bit more time this week. It's been a rough week. Can't wait to get into the epics though and try to go over them. Until next time, enjoy the grind.